I licked a beam the other day.
Why?
A rusty beam. I was told that it's good to get good source of iron.
Yeah, that was a joke. Yeah,
right.
That was a joke. That
AI is now going to take that and give that advice to 2-year-olds.
Did you hear? Did you hear the one about the two vomits walking down the road?
I did not.
One said to the other, "This is where I was brought up."
Awful. My new favorite is
how many of those do you have?
So many. How do you make a duck into a soul singer?
I don't know.
Put him in the oven until his bill withers. Until his bill withers.
I can feel my soul leaving my body.
So that's the perfect place to start. Welcome everyone to the Ancient Robot Games podcast. As always, I am Dougal.
And I'm Gelb.
And we are joined today by the incredible Jamie Heitler. How are you doing, Jamie?
I'm doing okay. I'm a bit tired. It's been a full day.
It has been a full day, but you know what? It's not over yet.
Oh, it's going to continue.
It's going to continue by talking about games and stuff. I know you as an independent TTRPG writer, mainly of modules like Managing the Expendables and Oni, which are both using the Mothership system. You are currently working on some new stuff.
I am indeed. Yes, I'm working on, actually, I've only just published a new module. It's called Hex Crawling the Void. And it's, how to describe it? I think it's, imagine Star Trek if Star Trek had been written in like post-Soviet Lithuania as a satire of capitalism, and then was maybe mixed with a little bit of Pixar's Inside Out, but where every emotion is greed of different flavors.
Well, it sounds really generic.
It really is.
Like very unoriginal. That sounds awesome. Just for our listeners.
The Lithuanian part is definitely, that's what makes it unique.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
The rest of it is...
If it was Latvian...
We've all done...
We've all done Latvian.
We've all done Latvian Star Trek. Polish Star Trek is just...
It's apologies to all of our Polish listeners. Everyone in Eastern Europe, I think we should apologize to at this point. For people who don't know, our listeners at least, or in fact anyone, even if you're not listening, could you give us a bit of background about yourself and what's brought you to the TTRPG space and how you got into making TTRPG stuff?
Okay, so I think probably it started with theft at the age of about 8. I went to this tutor for a while because I'm dyslexic and I needed a special assistant, and she had a fighting fantasy book, which I asked to borrow, and I never returned. Had the amazing illustration. I know. I feel judged. I'm being judged by the entire internet at this point, which is a difficult thing to have to deal with. And it was like, it was, I think, Forest of Doom, and just number three, and I borrowed it and I never returned it, and I just it was the illustrations because I still couldn't read at that point. I was just kind of flipping through the books, and I think that's kind of where my love of fantasy and later on my love of science fiction arose, and go on from there. 24 years, let's say. And I'm working as a teacher, as an IELTS teacher in Indonesia, doing a bunch of work. I'm working with English first, and I start desperately trying to find a way to occupy an afternoon with students who are advanced, but I have no teaching material for. And so I ran Dungeons and Dragons. I didn't actually run Dungeons & Dragons. I ran this horrible amalgamation, well, not horrible, awesome amalgamation of Numenera and 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, where I was basically taking the rule set of Numenera and then applying 5th edition spells to it. And that was my first experience GMing. I went a bit too much overboard. I cannibalized a bunch of board games and kind of used them as tools during the game. And that's kind of where I started kind of growing in love with the idea of kind of game design and kind of taking stuff from different systems and applying them into other games and systems. And that was quite a successful kind of afternoon. So I started kind of doing it more often with people, trying different things. I ended up when I went home, stealing my copy of Twilight Imperium, bringing it back over to Indonesia, that was about 90% of my allowance.
Yeah, extra suitcase.
Well, I should have done that. Couldn't actually afford it, but so I took that over and was just I cannibalizing it for bits, trying to do a science fiction RPG. Then I discovered Mothership. It would have been the 0 edition version of it, which I still have a very soft spot for. I feel like, first edition is an amazing beast. It's a kind of work of art. It's like what Sean McCoy has done and the team at Tuesday Night Games have done with it is absolutely amazing. But I still have a very strong soft spot for the kind of scrappy kind of indie vibes of the 0 edition. So that's kind of how I got into GMing kind of Mothership modules. After a while, my son was born, and Jakarta is a little bit of a difficult city to live in with a small child because you can be trapped in traffic for up to about 2 hours, and that's no fun with a 6-month-old child. And so it was like, okay, it's time to come back. And I came back and I came to Ancient Robot and just playing around. I was trying to use Dead Planet originally. I don't know how familiar you guys are with it. It was the first module that Tuesday Night Games came up with. And I started playing that and I found that it worked, but it was difficult for me to GM it effectively. And that's definitely something that I was like, okay, I need to rearrange this because I basically have 3 modes of role-playing, which is that it's either me, it's a goblin, or it's a granny. And those are my only kind of voices that I can do in RPGs. So I was needing to figure out a way to kind of pull a certain amount of role-playing out of it while still keeping the going into derelict spaceships kind of vibe of the original. And that was the origins of managing the Expendables. And it was through kind of playtesting here that I was kind of developing its voice and playing around with it. And I was developing the techniques that I would then apply to hex crawling the void.
I definitely thought you were going to say, well, sometimes you get stuck in traffic in Jakarta for 2 hours and you have a 6-month-old. So what do? You cannibalize a bunch of games and create a TTRPG for the 6-month-old.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like I've got nappies in one thing and then I've got Brass Birmingham in my other bag.
There you go.
That works.
That's fine.
I thought it was going to come directly from I've had a 6-month-old and now I need to make games for them to play. And that was the thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because 5th edition is just ever so slightly too complex for a 6-month-old, but not by much.
Get him right.
He's a talented lad. He will get to it after he stops eating the rule book.
I mean, we all have to get past that point. It's difficult. It's difficult.
It's so tasty.
Delicious.
Which is the best edition? Which one would you like to eat most?
The
of
one
RPGs.
No, Dungeons and Dragons. I would go, but we can move on to RPGs.
I mean, second edition. You still got Thaco. You still it's beefy. It's beefy. I want.
It's got a Bovril taste to it.
Yeah, I want to feel filled. I want it to be savory. I don't want a light snack. This is a full meal because I have to eat a TTRPG. Why have you done this to me, Jake?
All right. I was going to say any of them with more of the color blue because the color blue tastes delicious.
That's again.
You're licking girders that are blue. Was that the origin? All right.
Yeah. Nobody will know what we're talking about.
The highest lead content.
Yeah. How did it? Well,
what girders?
Blue.
Oh, got you. That makes more sense. It's like your girders are wrong. They're too heavy.
What was it? The Egyptian makeup was blue, and it's part cyanide or something like that. That's something I've heard on somewhere.
I've always eaten blue, and I'm fine.
Yeah, purple was the crushed beetles. That was why that was so red. Expensive.
Yeah,
which I do remember.
Maybe it's a different historical people.
It's fascinating that you think that anything that I'm saying is in any way true.
Oh, okay, good. You're not even called Robert Gelb, are you? Oh, I didn't think so.
I'm a granny goblin.
There we go.
Theodore, all along. Amazing. How did you find I guess because all of your making has come out of this, want to change stuff up and have stuff that you will run and that makes you feel good about it. So all of that kind of creativity comes down to that. But how did you find the kind of leap from that creative aspect of, I want to do something for me, to one, making things that other people are going to be able to jump into and be able to do as well? We have all run TTRPGs off basic notes that we've scribbled on stuff and hope that it works. Actually making something that is accessible to other people, as well as the kind of publication and printing side of it. How did you transition from I'm just making a thing to, I'm physically making a thing? And how did you find that?
I think it started with kind of Sean McCoy's blog, Failure Tolerated, where he was talking through the process of actually publishing and the different natures. Yeah, so I was reading that and just going, this looks doable. Because before that, I had no kind of idea about what the process was. I ended up going on the Mothership Discord, and I think that's a great resource for anybody who's starting out, because they've got that, like a whole set of channels all dedicated to third-party creators, and just kind of seeing what people were talking about and how it worked and seeing the process. And it's like, okay, this is relatively easy once you kind of know the process. I might still admit that like RRP and MSRP and what's the amount that you as the creator get is margin. Thank you.
All the RPs that aren't the TTRPG.
I still mix up profit and revenue, which is not a problem at all.
Your tax person has no issue with that whatsoever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
I'm curious about a little bit more about something that you said earlier about Mothership.
Yeah.
Like why is it so special? And also curious, you made a distinction between 0 versus 1, and the more scrappy version. Would love to understand just from a designer's perspective, why does it, as a lot of people write and see Mothership in the same way, why is it so special?
It's a good question. I don't think I have a clear answer to it. I'm going to think through what my answer to that would be. But I think it is in part the scrappiness of it. And I think that definitely kind of gets people in. I think it's just very refined. Like kind of pulling back all the rules to what is the function of this particular rule. I'm thinking about things like stress, and you can see the kind of refinement between the kind of 0 edition, which I forget how many it is. It kind of goes to 30 levels of stress that you can achieve over time, and then moving to the first edition where it's only 20, and then it's all kind of based upon the system of the more stress you have. I should kind of back up and start with whenever a character fails an action in Mothership, they gain a stress, which then adds to your total. And then when something really bad happens, you roll a panic check. With a panic check, you're rolling a d20, and if you roll over your stress, nothing happens. You're fine. You hold it together. You roll under it, and then the result is kind of that's being kind of revealed by the increase of stress over time, affects your character, gives your character a condition, or forces them to run away, or does something of that nature. And I think it's going back to why Mothership is kind of so beloved, is that it's just such a simple interaction. It's building up over time. It's creating a very clear kind of dramatic moment, all with very basic rules. Something that in, say, 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons would take about 3 pages of explanations, and you'd be flipping back and forth putting the rules, and you'd be having to kind of remember multiple integers, is just kind of done in such a way that you almost don't have to think about the rules. You can just kind of focus on the narrative, which is kind of, I think, like Mothership's strength in that stuff, is like the rules get out the way.
But there are still recurring themes in terms of what makes good Mothership stories, or what makes good Mothership, what makes stories well placed for Mothership. And so like versus, let's say, another system, how do the mechanics that you've chosen to embrace impact the type of story you want to tell, and maybe give you cues versus you adapting whatever it is that you want to do to make it more enjoyable from a Mothership perspective?
I think going back to that raising tension, like that raising tension over the session where like everybody is, all the characters are gaining stress as they go through the adventure. It's just drama. And almost in a way, like Mothership doesn't need to be a horror game. Yeah. In a way, it can be a comedy. It can be like a thriller in some ways. It does simulate horror incredibly well. But the fact that you've got this kind of raising threat level allows you to play around with it a lot. So for like managing the Expendables, I was definitely kind of moving away from just pure horror to the basically trying to more simulate like an incompetent version of Mission Impossible, where things are kind of getting worse and worse over time, but the players are still in a certain amount of control. It was a kind of key thematic points were Mission Impossible and a game called Duskers, which is an amazing computer game that I think Quinn's did a video on it back before he was a Quinn's Quest or Shut Up and Sit. I think it was at the same time as Shut Up and Sit Down, where he was looking at the mechanics in certain computer games. And Duskers has this amazing system where you're a drone operator and you're sending these drones into these derelict spacecraft. But instead of like controlling them as a first person kind of shooter experience, you're typing in the command console, which kind of separates out the pure horror, because you're never actually kind of seeing anything too horrible, but it raises the tension level incredibly. And it creates that thing of a pattern where you can, a gameplay experience where you can be in absolute control, and then everything falls apart in a spectacular fashion, which I think that Mothership allows you to do those kind of stories very effectively. And so for me, I was interested in moving away from pure horror to more, how can I create tension in a story?
It's a very good system for that tension. Mm-hmm. I think Mothership has, I think as well, something that does it huge justice is it is not a massive source book going, this is what the universe looks like, these are the old civilizations that used to be there, these are the faction things, are not in that core book at all. Mm-hmm. What it is setting up the kind of idea of it more than anything, of it's a sci-fi universe. You are these people who are generally going to do one thing. That's it. You've been hired as some sort of mercenary, usually, and you are going to do that thing. That character, don't get too attached to it, probably not going to survive very long. Mm-hmm. That like easy setup allows so many different things. I've seen Type World of Manny and things like that, which is set up as essentially a water world. You can have a fake Kevin Costner in it, and that's great, and everyone should do that in Type World of Manny if you're not doing it already. There's Desert Worlds of Karth, there is Nirvana on Fire. There are so many things that go into the smaller zines, the Decagon, that kind of work within not necessarily horror, but some adventure, some tension building, all these things. But then you can go all the way to the other side with a goblin with a knife. Is literally a Mothership leaflet. And it's wonderful to be in a derelict spaceship trying to hunt for stuff. And there's a goblin with a knife. And that humor crossed with the tension of, oh God, how do we deal with a goblin with a knife, is actually quite entertaining. I think Mothership sets itself up, particularly with what they were doing with opening up the source for it, essentially allowing anyone to make anything and not being like, well, you need to pay us a certain amount of royalties or something to kind of add it into this Mothership thing, has just allowed more people to do more things in more ways, and really shows that kind of like creativity driven game making that I think a lot of other maybe bigger TTRPGs kind of shy away from, wanting to keep everything in-house and wanting to kind of have this focused experience based upon this massive history that they've made themselves. Mothership definitely feels open source in a way that I think even stuff like 3D printers and stuff used to be. Yeah. Everyone was making a whole bunch of stuff. The early internet, it's got that sort of feel of everyone's collaborating together, so nobody knows what it is. Even though it has kind of some definitions about what that is, you can do so much with Mothership. And even seeing the recent thing that Tuesday Night have done with Father Fog being essentially their Mothership, but it's fantasy and fairy tales are all real, and that's also horrific, is really, really clever, and it's kind of opening it up in another way. So
allows you to bring in, multiple energies from different things. Because, like as you say, Goblins Loose on Icarus Station is just pure comedy, as I feel invariably Decagon becomes just comedy after a while, but at the same time allows you to have over at that and the kind of serious horror, something like VR Dead or I forget the one that's like underwater. There are 17,000 ones that are underwater, and it's The Thing there, and it allows you to have both of those ends because it's just, as I say, that raising drama.
Having worked extensively within Mothership, and obviously we've just all been talking about how great Mothership is, it doesn't fit every type of game and every type of emotion or atmosphere that you're wanting to give within a tabletop RPG. Have you felt the need that you're wanting to make things that are not fitting within the Mothership side of stuff? And in which case, what things would you like to do, and what systems do you think you would want to put them in? Or would you like to make your own?
So there is a system called His Majesty the Worm, which uses tarot cards and separates them out and uses the different integers involved with the different cards as a way to resolve. And it's a fascinating system, especially because it has a system called bonds, where different characters, different PCs are linked to each other by different thematic bonds. So they could be big and small, or it could be mentor or mentee, which encourages role-playing, because whenever you kind of charge one of these bonds, that's a resource that you can use later in the game to either heal yourself or to regain resolve, which you use for spells and all sorts of other activities as well. And yeah, I'm very excited about how that can be applied to different contexts, because it incentivizes that kind of, this is going to sound like I'm being derogatory, but the kind of Marvel side where it's like, we're a found family and we don't necessarily like each other, but we're going to get into each other's kind of personal lives, and then we're all going to be friends at the end. It's a very good system for kind of encouraging that kind of role playing, and I'm very excited about a system that I've been playtesting last year at Ancient Robot, which I'm currently calling Untitled Pirate Game, but at some point I will come up with a title for it, or just make it about geese. We'll figure out.
It's the classic, like, if you can't do pirate, you do geese.
Pirate geese.
Pirate geese is great.
There we go.
That was pretty good. Pretty good. Honk me mateys. There's a whole bunch of stuff you could do.
Yeah.
That's great. Pieces of honk. No, that's piece of eight. That's never going to work.
Pieces of eight, yeah.
I don't know. Pieces of bread. There we go.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
instead of
berry
hook,
tovis.
Surely instead of hook, you just do honk, but you do the N as a thing.
Oh, nice.
I want my royalties. Outside of TTRPGs, how much game and game design do you either tend to get involved in, or at least want to be involved in certain way? Do you play a lot of board games or other games, computer games, to kind of get this side of creativity in there? And also, do you design other things? Is there something else that you kind of want to design, haven't done yet, or you did a little bit and pieces of, and it's something you'd want to get back into?
Mostly, I would say that I like to focus on RPGs for the most part, just because that they're very forgiving in regards that if you're kind of designing a board game, you have to be very precise with your numbers, and you need to really absolutely make sure that like there isn't an optimal strategy that just eradicates the fun from it. I am looking at you for this as well. It's
because I'm a failure at doing that, apparently.
I mean, you just eradicate fun.
I'm just bringing you out at this point.
Jesus.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to bring out your trauma here.
Jesus into this.
Come on, man. They call me Gelb, but yeah.
Yeah. But I am very interested in where different genres like board games and role-playing games, or tabletop role-playing games and computer games can meet. And I think that especially when you are designing in one of those genres, you need to be looking at what's happening in different ones. As I was mentioning earlier, Managing the Expendables was very much inspired by Duskers. It was also inspired partially by Space Alert. You guys are aware of Space Alert, the board game?
Vlada Chvátil's kind of weird programming masterpiece.
Yeah. Now you can see on the one hand, Duskers is about programming little droids to go into derelict spaceships, and Space Alert is about programming humans to not die. What is the objective of Space Alert?
It's to have the spaceship somehow be fixed from all of the problems that are happening, but not knowing what other people are programming to. So when you go over to fix something, someone has already gone over and fixed it, so you go over and break it. Yeah. That's how I felt the game has gone every time I played it.
You keep firing the same laser forever. That stuff. Like one person is just stuck on the left side of the ship firing the laser. There's no energy to go into it, but they're going to click that button until, I don't know, until the end of time. So while I'm not necessarily, I'm maybe too scared to go into designing board games, I am very interested about how you could bring role-playing into specific board games. So like some of my fondest memories of playing Space Alert, especially with my brothers, is of turning it into basically a Zach Brannigan simulator where like one of us role plays the captain and is giving orders to everybody else, and everybody else is playing different, I forget, what is the alien's name?
Kif.
Everybody is playing different flavors of Kif. Some of them are blue. You could lick them.
Lick them with lead.
Different flavors of Kif.
Different flavors.
Your next title of your.
There we go. Okay.
It is interesting. It's interesting though that you say that you feel like designing a board game feels intimidating, or because of, let's say, balancing. But I guess on the flip side, as someone who has never done an RPG, the idea that you have to provide enough material to keep people who are naturally free to go wherever they want on track and entertained without mandating everybody read an incredibly long book, that feels like, from my perspective, that feels intimidating. Whereas constructing a bunch of constraints and then making sure they work.
You're holding.
You have to come up with a box, but once they're in the box and once you're sure that the box works, then anything you add from a theme perspective is like, oh, that's cool, that's beautiful, or that's nice, but it doesn't feel as stressy, at least to someone like me. So it's just interesting that you say that.
It's a good point. I guess I'm just too nervous about like somebody pointing out a strategy that could break it all. I think in regards to like kind of my origin story, going back to Mothership, like there was a very clear pathway to here's how you do it, here's the steps that you can take. Now you just need to write this thing. So I feel like, in part, and maybe this is a thing that like Mothership, or maybe a workshop involving a fine retailer of board games could be involved in, which is like...
anyone, Dougal?
No, I
have no idea.
That's fine.
Laying out the steps of like, what do you need to do in order to come up with your own board game? Because I kind of fell into it because there was such a clear path with Mothership, with what Tuesday Night Games was doing. If I discovered, I don't know, Into the Odd, even though Into the Odd Chris McDowell has done wonderful things about keeping that a very open license, I don't think there's that clear pathway of here's how you do these. So maybe that's partially it for it. But to then come back to your original point, I think for me, and this is maybe not helpful for the audience, but I will say for myself, it's like role-playing games, if you're GMing a role-playing game, it's very much like teaching. It's a process of giving like information to people and then seeing what they can do with it. And so having been a teacher, I was a teacher in Jakarta for about 8 years, and I'd taught like 3 years before then. I'm very familiar with that pattern. And I think that if for people who are starting to role play, the idea that actually you don't need to be doing as much, it's the players who need to be doing stuff. And so it's always about giving them something to do, which is quite easy to play test because you give players something and then it's like, well, they play around with it and it doesn't quite work. And you can kind of see that quite easily. And I feel like in role-playing games, that's a potentially a quicker feedback loop than in board games where you have to be thinking, okay, are they not understanding the rules quite so much? Or like, I think there's more factors in board games than there are when you're writing an RPG module, because you've already got the system.
I feel like I would worry about the opposite of like if people aren't aren't doing or aren't getting anywhere on an RPG, I might be thinking, well, are these the right people? Are they not thinking right? Are they just bored? Are they ruining my game because, you know, they're not in the right mood? Whereas I feel like, you know, on board game side, the you can still have that same, like, maybe the game isn't for you, but have you run into the wall? Okay, you've run into a wall again and again and again. Okay, then clearly there's something wrong. Objectively, there's something wrong. You know, versus there's the person's not just, quote, doing it right.
Much more mechanically focused.
Yeah,
I think the board
exactly.
game side of stuff, because you were doing those things. It's so interesting. It reminds me of, so there was one time we were doing an RPG in the shop, and someone had not turned up to run an RPG. So I had to run an RPG with like 5 minutes prep, and I didn't know what I was doing. So 10 minutes prep. I didn't know what I was doing, so I picked out one of Grant Howitt's one-page RPGs just randomly.
Honey Heist?
It was not Honey Heist. I did that so much. I was like, let's not do Honey Heist. So I did The Witch is Dead, and The Witch is Dead is a fantastic tabletop RPG where everyone is playing as a familiar of a witch who has been murdered by a witch hunter, and you're off to go on revenge.
Murdered.
That's the goat goblin back. Granny goblin. Granny goblin. Goat granny goblin.
I mean, all grannies are goats,
All grannies are goats.
or all goats are grannies. I'm not sure.
My granny's dead, and thank goodness, because if I called her a goat, she'd be very upset, and I would not hear the end of it.
Tell her that
I heard you, Dougal.
remind her that it means greatest of all time, and then just leave it there.
And she will definitely accept that as she
Absolutely.
understands this modern lingo.
Square eyes. Anyway, continue.
Yeah. So I was running this thing, and I'd written in 10 minutes. I wrote so much. I got lots done, but I was also like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. They're going to this place. There's maybe a forest. The witch hunter's there. Okay, we got that kind of in place. And I was so worried. I had like half a page, maybe a page of notes written down. And I just thought, oh, I've got to do this. I've got 8 people running my game or playing in my game. How am I going to do this? And after 45 minutes, they were still in the witch's cabin at the start, trying to open a drawer. And I realized, oh, wait. All of that work is not really necessary in RPG. A lot of it is driven purely by what people are doing.
Who's in the room.
Give them the smallest amount, and they will do so much with it.
100%.
When you throw a random name in there, that becomes the most important character to them, which now has to do with something to do with the story, even though it wasn't originally, because they've hooked onto it. And I think that's where board games have a focus on mechanics to drive all of the actions. The actions are driven an awful lot by like 1 or 2 things that you might say as a GM. The rest of it is flavor and atmosphere and everything else. Or at least that's how I found it very well.
I had heard someone described, you know, good GMing is that you can only ever bring 49% to the game, and I feel like that's that sounds great in my head. That sounds like a heck of a risk. Well, you know, and
you don't know anything as a GM. It's
exactly.
Yeah. You're
in terms of prep, in terms of like thinking about things. Like,
I think you're more in the dark than the players are as to what's going to happen. Like, that's it. You might have ideas, but you never hit those ideas.
And this is fun.
I think it kind of like, I'm going back to like one of the guys who taught me when I was first learning how to teach, and he always said like the perfect lesson is one where you can say 5 words and then the students do the rest of the talking. And I think the same is almost true for being a GM. It's like you give people enough to get their teeth into, and then they just spiral out, and then you just kind of keep kind of laying, I mean, it's very Gromit in the Wallace and Gromit, kind of laying the tracks in front of them. But it's
Eating
like
the moon,
that as well.
Well, speaking of eating the moon, this brings us to our regular weekly section. That's not
segment.
The right word. Our regular weekly segment, the Man with the Golden Games. As you all know, this is where we talk about the games that we've been playing recently. Jamie, what games have you been playing recently?
Spirit Island. It's always Spirit Island.
It's always
Spirit Island. You'll be asking me this question in 7 years' time, and it will still be Spirit Island. It's just, you can play that game forever. Like, just change the spirits, change the nations that are coming. It's one of the best big games for introducing new people, I find. Because even though it is ridiculously complicated in like the iconography and through that, it is just very consistent in how everything works. And then admittedly, don't start playing at 9 o'clock at night. That is something I have learned. But once you've kind of introduced it, it has a momentum all of its own, and it's just... It goes through such a natural, dramatic kind of loop of going. I'm making hand gestures in an audio format. We're going to die. Oh, no, we're not going to. Oh, we might do this. Oh, we might do this. We did. Oh, we did it. And which is... hey.
It's copyrighted by Nintendo. You can't do that one, Gil.
If it was a goose.
Yeah. Give us
Mario as a goose.
Positive honk.
Yeah. That's very good.
I love it.
Thanks.
What about you?
It is one of the best cooperative games, and also one that has depth to it, but it also has a certain amount of ease of access once you kind of get over that iconography thing. It has one of the best things, which I think is difficult for a lot of cooperative game design, which is the lack of ability for quarterbacking, as it's known, where one person takes over and goes, "You should do this, we all do this, and then we win." You can't really do that in Spirit Island because everyone's got their own hand of cards, and all of the stuff is different, and there's kind of so much going on that never at some point you will discuss what you're going to do an awful lot there. So it actually kind of brings that co-op in. 100% agreed. Great game. I have been playing Azure, which is it doesn't need to be said like that, but for some reason it happened. This is one of the four fantastic games from Bitewing Games. 4 fantastic games from the Mythos series. I don't know what they're calling it, but basically it's Iliad, Icor were the first ones. Rhino Knizia at least did Iliad. The 2 newest ones are Moitura, which is a wonderful Celtic themed 2-player game, and Azure, which is Chinese mythology themed, but a very, very clean playing abstract game, which is super lovely, with 4 different kind of sectors you're playing into. You're playing down cards of a certain color to be able to place a piece on a place. But to place it on that spot, you'll need to discard the amount of cards for the amount of things you will get under it, which may be victory points, or it might be more cards. So you need to kind of build that thing of working towards different card things whilst other people are playing the same stuff in the same place. And things get cheaper as you play with playing those cards, because anything you've got in a row or a column that's attached to the place that you're playing will be cheaper depending on how many other things in that row or column. I realize describing an abstract game over sound alone is very, very difficult, but it's been one that has been consistently gone back to because it's a decent length. It's kind of 10 to 15 minute abstract game, but it is constantly randomizable, essentially, with the 4 boards having different orientations placed in different places, and these different mountains with different animals that you take over. Always feels like a very clever puzzle that you are playing against someone who sees the same clever puzzle that's different every time you play. Also beautiful pieces, little kind of Go style stones, absolutely delightful. Yeah, big fan of that game. I think it's super, super clean. So I've been playing that recently. Gil?
I've been playing a few old games, like old parlor games from the 17th century for research. And these are like games that like sailors would play, like Put and Trunk, I think is another version of it. But these are like really, really simple trick-taking and bluffing games. Like Put, there are a whole bunch of different understandings of what the rules could have been, but it basically involves you drawing a few cards, let's say 3 cards, and then you're going to be placing down those cards and then winning tricks. But you have to, in some versions, you have to declare how many tricks you want to win. But in most of them, the twist is that at the beginning of your turn, you are able to say the word put, and basically it's like it's a bluff, and if somebody agrees with you, then you win. You just take 1 point. But if they call your bluff and you actually do have good cards, then you're going to win 3 points automatically, and you're going to win the whole hand. So then then you keep points that way. So like really, really basic, really, really simple. But I'm trying to design a game that would have been a mini game attached to a bigger game that would have been played by sailors on the ancient spaceships that they're traveling on. So I'm trying to take some inspiration from some of these old games. So that's what I'm playing recently, and then Wing It as well, which I talked about last fortnight's episode.
Might be. We
might be, or might be next week.
Might be next week. We might keep this episode for a year. Let's just keep it back. You know what? I want to sound younger a year later, so we'll do all the ones where I age, and then.
Hello there.
Oh my goodness,
Dougal.
I didn't realize we'd also moved all the way back into debutante
to
eras.
Georgia.
Oh my god.
Oh my goodness.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
No ideas
everybody.
where this has come from.
I'm
Jamie,
trying to identify whether it's a granny or a goblin or just you.
Just me.
Just you, Granny Goblin Gelb, as we know you as. Goose Granny Goblin Gelb from Georgia. Jamie, thank you so much for coming to join us. I know we've gone off on a weird random giggle tangent, as they call them. Thank you for joining us. It's been wonderful to talk about your games. If people are interested in the games that you're making, if they are interested in what you may make in the future, if they're interested in your past works, what is the best way to follow what you're doing, to be in contact if they would like? What personal information would you like to share?
Well, my security number. You can find me on the socials as Windblown Vagrant. I'm on itch.io, I'm on DriveThruRPGs, and I'm on Blue Sky. And if you search for Windblown Vagrant on any of those, you will find me. You can also find my stuff at Ancient Robot Games as well.
That's a great place to go.
Yeah,
I hear it's really good.
I think it's the finest of places.
Oh, look, I'll give
haven't
you
heard that.
money later. There's a lot of underground chatter that is against all this. Thank you for listening to the Ancient Robot Games podcast. As always, I have been Dougal.
And I am Gelb.
And this has been recorded and edited by Ryan Scott. If you liked this, or didn't...
Even if you didn't,
please let us know in the comments or via email or Pigeon, if you've got Pigeon.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like us, drop us a line. And if you don't, do this really, really cool thing where you press follow or like. It actually works against us. So we'll still get the message.
Thank you very much for coming and listening with us, and we'll hear you next time.